The next set of skills for guitar will involve triads. Now, triads are your most basic form of chords. They're just 3 notes and only 3 notes at a time. And triads are all over the guitar neck. And we're going to look at one of those areas just to keep this really simple. But I mean, you can go on forever for triads and study them. But for this video, since it's involving one specific skill, we'll just look at one area of them. The other thing you need to know about triads is there's 4 kinds of triads. There's the major triad, major, there's the minor, and there's the 2 that are hardly used. They're, well, at least for modern stuff, is the diminished triad, and then there's the augmented triad. Okay? For this video, we're only going to look at the major triad forms, and I will tell you why. Because one, we're basically figuring what to play in a modern worship or modern music session. And in those situations, you will hardly ever run into diminished or augmented. You will run into major and minor triads. But with a major triad, you can play over minor chords using a principle called relative major and relative minor. And I explained this in another video that's called, I think it's called How to Use 3 Chords to Play All the Chords in a Progression, a video that I have. But it's easier to memorize, and it sounds really good and modern. And so you might be thinking, well, I still want to learn this. Well, that you can learn after you memorize what I'm about to show you. Later on, it's easy to go learn the minor triads. But right now, we're going to focus on the major. There's a little theory you need to understand, though, as far as the chord progressions go. You remember we talked about how chords 1, 4, and 5 are major chords, and 2, 3, 6 are minor chords. But each one of these major chords is related to one of these minor chords. And you can use a major triad over that major chord or the corresponding minor triad. I'll show you what I mean. So the chords 1 and 6, this minor chord, are related. So when you run into a chord 1 or a chord 6, you're going to use the 1 major triad. That's confusing. Major triad. When you run into chords 4 and 2, these 2 chords are related. Even though 4 is majors and 2 is minor, you're going to use just the 4 major triad. And then the only 2 that's left, the 5, which is a major chord, and 3, which is a minor chord, are related. And for those 2, you're going to play the 5 major triad. Okay? So with these 3 triads, 1, 4, and 5, all being major, you can play over all 6 of these chords. 7 is a diminished, but you will hardly ever see that in a modern song setting. So I'm going to leave that out just to keep this simple. Okay? So now here's what those triad patterns will look like on the guitar. So for the number 1 triad, it will look like this. We're still in the key of G. So you remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. But for the one triad, we're going to go to this region of the guitar right here. And we're going to play this shape. Okay, so that kind of looks like the fingerings of a D chord down here. It's not a D chord. That's actually a G chord because it's up higher. But this, you don't really want to, what you want to memorize is the shape of the 3 notes. So this here in the key of G will be the 1 chord or 1 triad. Okay, that's the number 1 triad. And then I will use different colors to overlap these. So you'll get, let me see what would be a good color. Here we go. I'll use, well, this color. Okay. So the 4 triad, remember we only need 1, 4, and 5. 4 triad will involve this note, this same note, and this note. So this grouping, this pattern will be the 4 triad. And you will play that over both the 4 chord and the 2 chord. Okay? And then the third and final chord will be the 5 triad. And the 5 triad will be played like this. This note, it will share this note, and this will go down here. So this grouping of blue, this is the 5 triad. So that might, once again, with all of these, it will probably look a little confusing, but once you get it memorized and apply it, it will become second nature. What I will do though is, because all these notes overlapping looks confusing, I'll draw them out one at a time. I wanted to put them all together so that you know the relationship of these notes. But watch. Let's go erase these. And in red, I will draw the 1 triad here. It looks like this. And you don't play these 3 strings. It's just on the top 3 strings here, the high 3 strings. That's a 1 triad. The 4 triad is right there. And then the 5 triad is, let me see, down here. Now, all of these are partial chord shapes from the cage system. And you can go watch that video. I have a whole series on that as well. But these are kind of the little basic 3-note chordings that will, they'll sound great when you play, especially over like verses and stuff. So you'll definitely want to memorize these separately from the entire chord shape. Okay? So 1, 4, and 5 will take care of all 6 chords, and have these memorized and apply them to the songs.